Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next episode in Cloud Lunch and Learn. I'm very glad to welcome everyone to our session with our guest speaker today, Sankit Gorpade. And today, actually, what we are going to do is we are going to speak about building enterprise platform and what the Sankit actually has a chance to work with and trying to contribute. Currently, Sankit himself is working from Netherlands, and he's working for a company called Rapid Circle. What they are doing now is they're actually helping the Shell with the work that they are doing on data platform engineering, and he's using Azure as a platform. So he's actually uh, has very unique, I would say, achievement when he was at the last year of when he was a student, and he actually is a national winner of the Microsoft Imagine Cup 2015. So, Sankit, welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much, Alhan, and really excited to talk to the people and interact about the different data engineering principles around the platform. So super excited, and thank you so much for having me over here.
Sure, and just few things that I forgot to mention about Sankit. He's also likes to play guitar, and he's a vivid soccer player. So if you are in that area in Netherlands and want to have a match or two, get in touch with him. All right, that said, I'm going to switch the gears here and let's bring the presentation. So I hope everybody is able to see the shared screen by Sankit. And now all the floor is yours, Sankit. Provide, please go ahead. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alan, and I hope my screen is now visible. Just taking a confirmation before I move next. Yeah, great. Okay. Hello, good day, everyone. People joining from different regions. So I think good day will be the right term. Uh, with that being said, uh, my name is Sanket, and I currently work at Rapid Circle, and I'm playing a role of a subject matter expert uh, at uh, at another organization to build and help them set up the data engineering platform. And other than things which already Elan mentioned, if there's anything that you guys are also working on the same domain and want to connect with me, I will share the details about that at the end of the slide. Without taking much of time in terms of the actual session, I will just move ahead to next slide. But before I move ahead to the next slide, I wanted to point point this out that this session is more of an interactive session if uh, you guys are also interested into participating. So I'd really be excited to have an engagement from you. And what I'm trying to do, my session is going to be without lot of content in terms of on presentation slide. I will have very less content on slide, but more of a hands-on. And I would like to take you through a journey. And while taking you through the journey, I've created a small story around it. So just bear with me for the story, and we'll take that story and personas to help and learn how you can build a data engineering platform on Azure, considering the governance and security aspect. Obviously, the the implementation can be different as per the different architecture and different solution. I will be taking with a very small concept or a very small part of a scenario in terms of how the data can be governed, but there are multiple ways. And I will try to touch base on those topics with so that you will be aware that these topics are also exist, and maybe you guys are working on that. And if you want me to talk more about that, and if you have some time left, we can talk about at the end of the session, or maybe we can have another session for this as well. Now, with that being said, what all things I'm going to cover today. So today I'm going to talk about the data platform components, and I'm considering some people have from audience today have already worked on data platform on Azure, or maybe any other cloud service, and they have some idea about what does data platform look like. Then I will try to cover other topic, which is our main topic related to this data platform. That is about the PIM and RBAC setup, how what all things, what is it, and how it is in relation with the this data engineering platform. We'll try to carry out some setup, how we can set up a PIM, how you can monitor it, and action and alerts. So that will cover the security and the governance aspect as well. With that being said, let me try to take you the next slide. Uh, and while going to the next slide, I think I only have next two, one or two more slides only, and then rest it will start with the actual hands-on. But while going through the slide, if you feel that my speed is too fast or too slow, just feel free to drop a text on the chat, and I will definitely try to adjust to that. So, what is a data platform? What do we understand? Let me move. Whoa, this is a very complicated structure, maybe. Or if you guys are already playing into data field, you might have seen this many times. But considering that this is a very complex structure, I want to just break it down. I've just put it on the screen just to show that there are a lot of different components involved when it comes to data engineering. And this is a architecture reference which I've taken directly from Azure documentation, Microsoft documentation, so which lists down on how it can be done in one way. I'll just try to break it down and focus on the parts that we are going to cover. So just bear with me. So this part that you see on the, let me try to bring the highlighter. Yeah, if you see this part, this is the part that is from where the data is actually coming. Data is from actually ingesting. This is the part where the data is actually storing, and we are performing any transformation on any of the data. So for any people who are new to the data engineering platform or attending the one of the first session of how does data platform look like, there are a lot of lot of components involved, but we'll talk about components such as ingesting. That is when you ingest a data from some place. Then you need some storage space. So when you load some data from a particular source, you store the data. You have to store, you need some storage space where you can actually put your data. So the storage space can be anything like a data lake or yeah, or any other storage space. And on after you have the storage space, then you can perform some transformation on that data. You can use a lot of the transformation tool, ADF. You can use Databricks or maybe any other tool to perform some transformation. Once you have transformed and you have a clean data or you have a curated data that is called as that is ready. When we say curated data, that now the data is ready and maybe can be used to create some report out of it. So you can serve it, and that is where you can use different components such as Power BI to show the report out of that data. Now, I'll just try to break this down complex structure in simple blocks. So what we just discussed, first block is data source. We need some source of the data from where it can be ingested. It can be IoT. If it is a streaming data, it can be IoT. If it is a batch data, it can be any structure or semi-structured data that can be present. Once you have the data, you store it somewhere. So we take the source data, store it the place, and then we serve the data. So then we serve the data. So uh, this is I'm just looking at it. Are you able to see the blocks? I think it was not showing on the screen. I see the one. Okay. Uh, let me try to show you what I was sharing.
Yes, Ankit, it's showing up fine.
Okay, perfect. I think it was
Okay.
my other screen was not showing.
All
Uh,
right.
Thanks for confirmation. Uh, Now, with that being said, so we had this blocks and we talked about source data to ingest. Talked about the data where it is stored, and then the final one is the data where it is served or consumed, like a Power BI report, right? Now, I just made trying to make the data part a little bit simpler so that most of the audience are able to go along with me. Now, if we take this ahead, now before I start with this is my last slide, and then I will start with the actual demo. But before I do that, I want to take you through a journey or a persona about let an admin and a user. The user name is Adil. So admin is someone who, let's say, in our use case in today's demo, the admin is the person who is responsible to maybe carry out, load the data, and can have the required access. The user, that is Adil in our case, will be responsible to have access, but not for a very long time. So any activities which Adil performed, admin wants to monitor that because that data is maybe sensitive, and admin want to make sure that no one updates that data, and even though the person has the access. And why is that access required then? If we do not want the person to update it, maybe it is required to validate certain uh, data if it is loaded or not, or or even to update it, but only update it particular set of file. So like that. So how so our story is around this one, and I've just created a small video, and we'll take that as a reference and uh, jump on that story. So uh, before I go next, one more part. This is not this video is not a promotion. This is my just a very little effort and attempt to put a script around this one, this demo. So with that being said, let me start. Okay. Yeah. So now with that being said, this was a small scripted video. The only purpose for me to have this video was so that I know that it sounds like I'm doing a promotion of Azure PIM or doing a marketing of that, but no, definitely trust me, it's not like that for sure. I just wanted to have some story around this one so that have uh, we have some personas in mind when we actually see the demo, and you are able to relate to what problem we are trying to solve. Okay, now let me start with this problem statement. So we just saw that Adil is a user, and the challenge over here is Adil always have the access on the data, and maybe it is she's afraid that having all time access, she might make some changes while reading the file. She might maybe accidentally delete it or update it, or something can happen. So how 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 an admin can make sure that these accidental operation does not happen, or even if it happens, there is some governance around top of it which makes sure that this gets notified or informed. So let's start with this, and the rest next set of demo, I will be switching between these two personas. One is admin, another one is adult as a user. uh, One thing to note, you will see two different browser at my end. So one browser with this icon. So whenever I'm loading a browser, just pay attention to the right hand side. So this is a admin with the astronaut symbol, and then this one Ed is Edel with the ninja symbol.
Sankit, just quick feedback here. Can you zoom in a little bit because
Sure.
people might be watching from the mobile device and it might
Okay.
be very small for them. Like Yeah, a little bit more, maybe 150 or so
Okay.
from regular. Yeah, that's good. Thanks.
Yeah. Is this good? Okay. Thanks for that feedback. Yeah. So I will try to point it out again. So if you see the user over here, this is Edil, and the another browser, this is admin. Okay. Now let's try to understand the structure, what we are trying to do. We are going to have, uh, like I mentioned in previous diagram, that we will have a data source, and that data source will dump the data in some storage account, and then the data will be consumed and served. So to do this activity, we'll have what I have already done. I've already created a storage account. So if I go here, this is my storage account. I'm assuming that Azure, on Azure, you might have played around how Azure looks like and what are the different, how you can create services, or how do you know about the services. So with that assumption, I'm taking it ahead that this is storage account. Obviously, you can go and create a new storage account on AWS. You can also create some different storage account. It is referred as different storage term, and in different other another cloud, you will have some different term. But taking from an Azure point of view, this is how the storage account look like. And in the storage account, we have containers, and this is like a generic one. A storage account contain raw, landing, enriched, curated, and maybe few other containers in different use cases. What we are going to do, uh, as an admin, I'm consider that I have a business and maybe I have lots of data about groceries. I have some items and I want to show the price list. Maybe this is served somewhere, Power BI report or some website or somewhere where it loads the catalog. So what I want to do, I want to show a simple sheet. So let's take an example, simple data. This is my data. And let me try to zoom in here. So if you see the data, how what all things it look like. So it has just three simple column: item, price, and a comment. Item contain an item like coffee, bread, anything. Price is the price of that. Let's say it's in euros, so €5. And comment is some base comment that is added for that product, which is used maybe for reporting or some any purpose. So I've just taken one simple data and I've not tried to make data as complicated as not complicated, so that we are able to you're able to stay with me in terms of other aspects. Okay, so with coffee as five, so coming back to the scenario, I'm an admin. I, as an admin, I want to perform some data engineering operation on this set of data, and maybe as part of that data, I want to load this, perform some transformation on top of it, and then show it to a show it on a Power BI report. Okay, now if I want to do this thing, I, as a admin, what I will do, I will go to the landing. Inside the landing, when I go, let me I've created this one already. I can delete this, so let me try to delete this one, groceries, and I've deleted. And let me try to upload a data set over here. So this is the same data set I'm uploading, and once this data is uploaded, you can go and see over here. As an admin, I can go and see even the data. What is the data right now present? Now this data is present. Okay, now the next part of this data is loaded. Next thing is we want to perform some transformation on top of it. So I go here. Once I go to this, I can use any transformation tool to carry out. What I've done, I've just created a simple data factory pipeline. So just to show that what are the different components you can use to perform transformation. So let's take an example that you have a data factory pipeline, and the purpose of this pipeline is it just performs a copy action. That is, copies the data from landing to raw, from one location to another location. It copies the same CSV file. Okay, so if I go to this one, this is the action. I've already defined what is the source, what is the sink, everything. Okay, now let me go and debug this or run this pipeline. So as soon as I run this pipeline, what it will do, it will try to copy this file and then load this file in a separate container called as raw. So let's give it few seconds. Meanwhile, yeah, this is failed, which is very much tend to happen when it's the demo. So let me see the reason for it being failed. Oh, the part does not exist. Great. Yeah, I think I when I deleted it, I copied it wrong location, or I've made some mistake over here in terms of spelling. So okay, what I will do is I will just quickly check, or just to save some time, and I do not waste time into carrying out this one. Uh, I will do this thing. I will perform the same operation which this data factory pipeline was performing. I'll perform the same operation via myself. Okay. So what I'm doing, I'm basically copying this file. So consider that this file, I'm copying this to another folder called as raw. Let me go to raw. So this is my previous run. So just to show you, demo did work earlier. It is just now it is not working. But let me delete this one and upload a new one. So let's say this upload that is right now happening. Hypothetically consider right now that this file was loaded from landing to raw via the ADF, some transformation. It doesn't matter because what we want to focus next is not on how it was copied, but the different use case, how it is, what is going to happen next. Now, once the file is copied over here, the next thing is this is done. The admin is happy that the file is now present. There's some data engineering, let's say machine learning model running on this one, creating some report out of it, and maybe showing it to stakeholders that this is the profit margin, this is how it will look like, what different scenarios maybe, let's say. But now at the same time, let's say it's a very complex data. So the team is huge, data engineering team is huge, and the company which this admin is running, so this admin will have, I have another team member with me. Her name is Adele. Now Adele, I want to give access to Adele on this data so that she can validate that, hey, is the file already copied properly? There are multiple files loading, so Adele will check and see that, hey, is the file copied properly or not? Is the data up, right, correct data or not? So she's responsible to validate those information, let's say. And for that, she needs some access. Now, this is where we are going to talk about how you can control the access. So if I go to Adele right now, I've moved to a different browser. This is, I'm logged in with Adele context. Now, if I go to Adele, I see that Adele, I have already on to Adele already. She has access to view the storage account. I've already given this one because if I as an admin, I went to the storage account IAM. This is an identity and access management, and via this access management, I've given Adele access to see this storage account. So if I go role assignment, I will be able to see that I've given this access to Adele. But now let me go over here. Adele has the reader access. One point to note, this reader access that you have seen just now, this is a management plane access. So this reader access will not allow Adele to read the data, but only see the resource, the storage account. That's it. So for having a storage reader access, I'll need to have a storage blob data role, this kind of role. Storage blob data, either contributor, owner, or reader, based on different read write operation or access that is required. So if how do we see that? Idle has only reader access. Now, if I go to the containers and I try to load a data, so let me go and inside raw, you will see I'm getting an error. So Adele is now getting an error because she only has reader access. Now, how this can be solved, right? Simple one. I, as an admin, I will go here. I will give role assignment, and I will give access to, let's say, I will say storage, storage blob data, data contributor. I will give this access to her. Okay, and I will select her identity and perform this operation. But if I do this thing, what will happen? Adele will get the access. Now consider Adele need access. I've not given it right now, but consider that if I select yes and if I would have moved ahead, what would have happened? Adele will have received the access, and maybe Adele need access only for 1 hour or 2 hour to carry out the activity. But now Adele has access till what time? Till I, as an admin, again remove her access. So think it from a business point of view. When you have a big size team, there has to be an operational team who need to manage the access. They are responsible of adding people and removing it. And it's a headache that they have to carry out this, the access that is required just for 1 hour or 2 hour. They have to carry out this activity again and again for them. And maybe the person is on leave and the access is with the user for a very long time. So things like that can happen. So how can we solve this problem? So this is where Azure Privilege Identity Management, that is PIM, comes into picture. What does it mean? So on Azure, there is, if I am right now as an admin, if I go here on Azure portal, there is a service called as PIM, AD Privilege Identity Management. Privilege Identity Management, what it does, it gives you access to, if we're talking right now in terms of a resource, Azure resource, so it will give you access to Azure resource for only certain duration. So it has capability of giving people access for only for certain duration. After that duration, access will automatically be removed. It also has the capability that you can, whenever you want to activate your access, so user as an Adele whenever want can activate her access. But whenever she activates her access, she needs some approval, and that approval will automatically flow to uh, her manager, saying that, hey, Adele is requesting for access. Do you want to approve? Manager will get an email. Manager approves. Click on a button, it approves, and Adele will get an access. And that access will be valid for certain duration, let's say 2 hours. And after 2 hours, her access will automatically be removed. So this is where PIM, privilege identity management, comes into picture. And now, during all this operation, whenever she activates her access, whenever she uh, approval her access is approved, or whenever her access is activated, for all these activities, the admin can get an email. This way, admin is very well aware who is activating access at what time. So how to do this thing? This is under privilege identity management. You see, under manage section, there is Azure resource, and under Azure resource, I can select the resource which I want to, where I want to set the access, and I can go here, search for my storage account. My storage account name is demo 101, this one. And under demo 101, I can set the access. So there are a lot of options over here. I will share the link of all this documentation later on as well. But under manage section, you can select what role are you trying to configure. I'm saying storage blob data contributor. So in my case, I've already configured this thing. So if I go here, I'll be able to see that I'm trying to say that, hey, give access of role storage blob data contributor, but to whom? Oh, right. So I'm saying that, okay, give the access, but to whom, and for what is the properties of this access? So the right now, the right now you see that activation duration. I, as an admin, I can set whatever time I want to set. Maximum is 24 hours. I've set it that uh, whoever has this access should have this access for 2 hours. MFA feature and other parts also there. And people working in a organization, they might be aware that whenever you want to activate some access or in an enterprise organization, whenever any request is done, there's always some ticketing process behind the scene, right? So this it also has a feature where you can mention some ticketing details, like consider you need some access, so you raise a ticket at some, let's say, service now. You raise some ticket at service now, and whatever ticket ID, you can provide that information over here as well, some justification on that. Why is this required? This can help you in terms of doing the operational activity. So whichever operational team, whenever they carry out this activity, in terms of compliance, they have all the information, who activated and what was the ticket number associated with it, and what is the justification behind it. It also has approvers in place, so you can select that, hey, whenever this whenever someone is activating access for this one, these set of people, you can select approvers list over here. This is again from AD. Uh, Whosoever is the approver, they will receive an email whenever someone is trying to activate that, hey, this person is trying to activate. Do you approve this one? And then it will flow. Next one is assignment, and then the notification. This is where the email and all parts can be set up. Once this once this is done, so right now you might have seen that I've set the properties, but I have not mentioned to Adil that this assignment can be given to Adil. So this is for doing that assignment. There's another section called as assignment. You can go here and click on add assignment and carry out this activity. I will just show you the existing one. So I went over here, the storage blob data contributor, and inside the storage blob data contributor, I've given, okay, let me do this. So I went here, I can select the role for which I want to give an access, and I can select the member. And so what I have done here right now, I have not given directly access to Adil. I have given access to AD group. So I've created a separate AD group, and to that AD group, I have given access, and I added Adil as a member of that AD group. This way, and next time I want to give access to one more person, I don't need to do in all this thing. I just add that person to as a member of that security group. And whenever I want to remove that person, when I consider Adil is leaving the organization, I remove Adil from that AD group. So
Quick,
mhm.
Sankit, quick question here came to studio from Sanjay, and the question is, what is the difference between SAS and PIM?
So yeah, I okay. Difference between SAS and PIM. So can you, Sanjay, can you talk about what is the full form of SAS that you're referring to?
So I will just guess here that probably the reference is to the shared access token,
Oh,
SAS token,
oh, SAS
probably,
token from the storage
probably,
account.
right? Because that might be the one that was in. I mean, but that's my kind of understanding of it. But Sanjay, if there's a different, you have a different meaning for the SAS, please let us know in the comment. But meanwhile, if what if the user is not in Azure Active Directory?
Yeah. Okay. So I
Hmm.
will take both
Okay,
the
thanks.
yeah, I will take both the questions. So I'm
Hmm.
considering, Sanjay, that SAS is what Elhan also mentioned, that it is a storage account access key, or related to the storage account, the access keys that are present, and PIM is the this one. So the both are different. So when you use SAS, what you use an access to access keys, right, to connect to a storage account. And whenever SAS token is used, it is not actually, consider I'm a user, and let's say Elhan is also a user, and we both are accessing the storage account via SAS token. So whenever we use the SAS token, you as an admin will not know that who is it, Sanket who used the SAS token, or is it Elan who used the SAS token, because token is fixed. It will use the same access key for both of us. But when you use PIM, PIM is not connected to the SAS token. PIM is connected to Azure identity. So when any activity is performed, it knows that sanket.ghorpade at the rate rapidcircle.com, let's say. This identity is accessing this one. And you give access to identity there. And when you With the SAS itself, it mentions as a shared, right? So you know that the access, whosoever is doing its access is shared with multiple identities. Here we are tying up the access to a particular identity. Also, the other part is with the SAS one, you can set up like a duration, right? That you set up, create a SAS token for, let's say, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. That is valid. But within that 6 to 9 p.m., next time you want to create, you create that SAS token again. So you have to always keep on doing that activity. Someone need to keep on doing that activity. With PIM setup, once you are done, it is a one-time setup, but once it is done, you don't need to create the SAS token or manage this access again and again, unless people are moving their role in the organization or leaving the organization. Uh, yeah, and what if the next one? What if the user is not in AD? If the user is not in Azure Active Directory, then you will need to invite the user. So if first of all you can invite the user as a guest user and then add the person. So that can also be done. Then the next one, does PIM apply to uh, RBAC role?
Yes.
Uh,
Mhm. So
let me.
question came from John. He's asking, does PIM apply to RBAC, role-based access control role assignments, or just reusable Azure AD tokens?
Uh, PIM, okay, so PIM is, I do not understand the last bit of a reusable AD token, but I think what I'm understanding that uh, where does the PIM is applicable? So PIM is applicable only to the Azure AD rules, Azure RBAC rules. So right now we are talking about Azure resources. So this PIM is applicable only to the default roles, or not even default, I will say, even custom roles can be done, but roles of Azure. It is not tied up to a particular uh, like a separate user. How we'll say it, like separate token itself. It is not tied up to that. It is tied up to role-based access control completely.
And another thing, Sanket, probably you want to mention is that with the RBAC on PIM, it's assigned only to the roles that are on Azure Active Directory, because
Yeah,
subscription itself also have the Azure roles, but they are separate from the ones that you have in Azure Active
right.
Directory.
Yes,
Just
correct.
to
Yeah,
clarifying that, because if you go onto subscription and try to do that, that's not where you are managing that. That's the different, I would say, domain where you are managing your workloads and not the access and other things.
right. Exactly. And this also on the PIM, this
Mm-hmm.
like in the start of this one, I mentioned two part that we are talking about Azure PIM on the resource. So similarly, Azure PIM can also be configured on Azure AD as well, like a global administrator or AD specific roles. So that can be done. But right now in this demo, we are talking about on Azure resource. So we are talking about the RBAC, and right now in this demo specifically, we are talking about
Mm-hmm.
RBAC on a resource.
Okay, on the resource, good. And thank you. So, John, if it answers your questions, great. If it is not, please have a follow-up question, and we will clarify that. Next question I gave from our active user today, Sanjay, and the question is: with SAS, we can assign IP of the user and set expiration as well. So, wanted to know the edge over SAS.
Yeah, definitely. So I will show you. I think I know what your question is, Sanjay. So what I will do, I will just go through the rest of the part of the demo, and I think I might be covering this part of your question there. But if not,
Mhm.
we'll definitely at the end of the session I will again take this question if it is not covered there.
All right, good. Let's continue for then. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Now, with that set of interactive discussion, it's really nice to see that. Uh, I'll go ahead. So, just to recap what we were talking how to set up the PIM, privilege identity management. Now, once the PIM is set up, right? I've given this. How does someone activate this part? I think Sanjay, your question, you might be able to see why PIM might be useful over here as well. So if I go to this one, I've now gone to another browser where Adele is the user. If I go over here and see containers and Adele as a user is trying to read the data, but she will not be able to read the data because she does not have the permission, right? So how can she activate her access? I will go to the privilege identity management, and under privilege identity management, I will see my roles. Under my roles, I will see Azure resource, and under Azure resource, I can see what all privilege identity management access Adil has as a user on different resource. So I will go here. So right now, consider that I'm Adil. I'm going here, and I see that, hey, I have a storage blob data contributor access on this storage. Okay, great. I can activate this one. So what I will do, I will click here, activate, and I will select that. If I can set that, hey, I want to activate this tomorrow. So I can set custom activation time as well. But I can set here, I will say ticket system as service now, let's say, and I say uh, 101 ticket number. And I can provide some information. So I provide some information and click on activate. So now this is the part. Right now, if you just few seconds ago, if you saw that Adil did not have access on the storage account, right? So Adil cannot even create her access on her own. But now with PIM, she is able to activate her access, which is already been configured by admin. And now once it is configured, uh, the activation will take, she will provide the details of ticketing and all the information, and the activation starts. When this activation is starting, behind the scene, what is happening, it is validating if it is the right person is activating right access, and any notification that we configured, like I wanted to notify the admin that, hey, someone activated the access, then all those notification emails will be triggered. It takes around 1 minute to activate. Let's give it next another few seconds. As soon as it activates, this will start. So let's give it a few more seconds. So I will just show you till the time this is activating. So I will just show you, okay, the activation is validated properly and now it is successful. What I wanted to show you is the email, how it gets triggered. Yeah, so if you see here, I get an email that Adele has activated the access. This is the activated, and the reason for this one, if there's an ticketing system, the information around it. Okay, so the admin has received this one, or you can configure it to some specific set of people as well. Now the access is activated. I'm back to Adele's account. I went here as an Adele. I'm again going to the storage account and going to the container. Now, if I go to the container and say that, hey, go inside the raw, and now Adele is able to see this data. Now let's take one more step to this persona. Now let's say because of some reason, we all know that right now inflation is reaching skyrocket, and everyone is facing some one or two problem related to inflation. Now let's say Adele is also facing the same problem, and she's fed up. Maybe because of some reason, she's fed up that she's not getting enough pay, and she goes rogue. She decides that, hey, I'm going to damage the data. I want to do something. She goes here to the groceries, and she knows that she buys it from here. She updates this section and makes this data to, let's say, 2, and add some comment to this, let's say, right, and save this one. Now Adele was not supposed to do this thing. Even though Adele has this access, maybe this access was required so that Adele can go and confirm if right data is there, or maybe she can upload only a particular file, perform maybe a rename operation, or does some operation. But or any operation that she perform, it needs to be governed. So now she has performed this activity, and now no, how will people be aware that this kind of activity is being performed, unless people start looking at that saying that, hey, now the coffee is, instead of 5 it is 2. So hey, yay, let's order a lot of coffee, right? So how does someone notice this detail? What I have done over here as part of this, when I was setting the storage, I as an admin, what I did under the storage account, I went to the diagnostic setting. So under the diagnostic setting, I connected the storage account to Logarithmic Workspace. What I'm so what is happening behind the scene? I'm collecting all the logs, any storage read, write, delete, transaction, operation happening on this storage account. I'm collecting all those details and I'm sending it to another resource called as Logarithmic Workspace. So this Logarithmic Workspace is a resource on Azure that is capable of storing logs, and we can query it and see the details that is happening. So let me show you. If I go to this Logarithmic Workspace, if I go here and view the logs, I can see I can see the logs that are present. So uh, let me try to load it. Okay, let me show you right away. I have actually saved the logs, but let me, yeah, zooming in again. Yeah. So if I go over here and try to run a query, so I can see that, hey, what are the storage that is present? So in the last 24 hours, I'm saying that show me logs on storage account, this storage account, whatever logs are there. And if I see here, you will see the activities being performed, any activities that if someone, so Sanjay, I think that your question might also come over here, right? So I can see here that, hey, someone performed this operation called as get blob service properties with the authentication type as account key. Now, if someone is using the SAS token, we will not know who that someone is, right? So that is why SAS token, whenever you will use the shared access signature, you will not, because shared access signature will use the access token. You will not know which user is actually carrying out that activity. Even though that SAS token is valid for a certain duration, but you will not know which user is carrying out that activity. But if I see this one, let's say list blobs, right? This operation name, if you see the authentication type is OAuth. So here the person identity will be known. So if I see requester UPN, I will be able to see this person listed all the blobs present in the storage account at this time. So coming back to the same point that as on the storage account, I'm already collecting all the logs and storing it in Logarithmic Workspace. So as part of operational activity, I'm doing this part. But how it will help me? In interest of time, I will try to show you the next parts quickly, uh, but making sure that I do not skip the important part as well. So as soon as the data is present here, all data is collected here, I as an admin can set up lot of monitoring active tools, monitoring operation on top of this. What I can do, I have this information, but I want to know that, hey, if anyone is performing like activities like this, notify me, like inform me. I can create an alert rule. Do you see over here? There's an alert rule. I can create an alert rule. Alert rule is a service again in Azure that will help you to trigger an alert. Like let's say if anyone on the storage account, this storage account perform anything, then inform someone. You can do this activity. I've already created a alert rule. I will show you for uh, I'll show you for uh, one of the other activities. So let's say this one. Okay. So what I'm saying over here that, hey, so this query that you see over here, it is called as KQL. So this is a KQL query. So via this, I'm saying that, hey, on the storage account, anyone performing storage write operation and authentication type is OAuth other than this person, because I know this person is admin. So anyone performing write operation over here should be, uh, uh, I need to know this. So I created a alert rule on top of this. So whenever any activity will be performed, I will get an alert. So if I go here, I'm showing on the email how it looks like. Right now, you saw, right? Adele went ahead and modified the coffee price from 5 to 2. You can see here, alert is triggered. Your Azure Monitor alert was triggered, and the alert is this. What is the information? The information is present over here. Requester is Adele. Adele has performed this detail. You can see URI on which it has performed and operation put blob at what time. So you can get alerts on top of this. And the good thing is, I really like Logarithmic Workspace. I enjoy that one. So what you can also do is you can create a Power BI report out of this. So you, and as an admin, as a governance point of view, you want to know, because a lot of people are out performing, right? You want to see how many people performed this operation, and you cannot do that every day. Maybe you do this activity once a week or once a month. So what I've done, I've created a Power BI report. So to create a Power BI report, it's simple. You go here, export, you click as Power BI as an M query. It will give you a Power BI query. You take that query, open your Power BI. Inside the Power BI, you add that query and make proper connection, and it will load. So I've already created this one. Purpose, what it shows, I've just refreshed this. So let me refresh this. It's so that it will reload the latest data. So what I'm showing over here in Power BI report is again a part of a governance activity that you can carry out while building a data engineering platform, that you want to see or monitor that what all data operation is performed and who all performed this. So I'm showing that these people performed this is operation during this time, this during this date. I can obviously add time as well, which I've not added. Then I created another table saying that, hey, all valid operations. So I know that this person, Sankit Gorpede, is an admin, and this person is allowed to perform operations. So I've created a table as this is a valid operation, and this I said invalid operation. Adil is invalid. How I've notified this, you can obviously, people who has played around with Power BI, they know they can set directly as a filter. I've said that wherever requester is not Sanket Ghorpade, all those operation as invalid operation. So I can see that. I can see number of, I created further report out of this. Obviously, this is just as per everyone's idea and how what all different activities they want to monitor. But uh, my motive to show you this detail is that you can connect your Logarithmic Workspace to Power BI and can also track read-write operation being performed on your data lake or any other activity. So right now, my whole operation has been around data lake, performing on the data that you can perform read, write, or operation. Obviously, you can manage all this access for other resources other than data lake as well. Consider you have a data factory, and inside data factory, you want to make sure that people have access only for 2 hours. So there also you can set the PIM. Anyone perform any activity from data factory, also you can send the diagnostic log to LAW, and again you can monitor those activities in form of Power BI report. So with this is the Power BI report, this is how it works, and on mail I will get the activities, whatever activities been performed. I will receive all the notification email for you. So yes, this is what I wanted to show you, how you can create the. I'll take last 1 minute to summarize what we just discussed. So this is how you can create the um, how you can create a data engineering. So obviously there are a lot of other aspects. I know that you can manage the granular level of access and something from other resources such as Unity Catalog on Databricks that can help you to manage access on a more granular level. There are other tools available as well. But as I mentioned from the beginning, that there are a lot of multiple tools option and architect available. This is one of the way you can use to carry out some read-write operation monitoring and alerting on read-write operation and making sure the security is correctly in place. Yeah, with that being said, I will end the session over here so that I can take questions if there are any, or talk about any other topic which I was not covered here, and people want to talk about that.
Thank you, Sankit, for interesting demos. And there was some questions that you take during your presentation to keep the audience engaged. Thank you for demos. I actually like those demos so that you can show them in action and show how the interactions are happening with the PIM and how certain scenarios can be achieved by a persona. In your case, it's administrator, right? Trying to manage the access and things. So uh, that was really interesting. But in terms of like for our users and people who will watch probably this session later, right? Because it's going to be
Yep.
recorded and available on YouTube channel of Cloud Launch and Learn. For all those users, if they want to learn more about these capabilities, the PIM and Azure AD and managing the access to the data platform, so where you would recommend them to go and learn, or where they can get additional information?
Yes, definitely. The basic Azure documentation, Microsoft documentation that is present, that is really great in terms of understanding and helping on this one. So I will share this link in the chat, maybe if that will help. Or uh, but Azure or Microsoft documentation is the right place where you will find all these details about privilege identity management. And also, while viewing the while looking at the data architect principle, so always, like, if your solution is on Azure cloud, let's say, and you want to build a data engineering platform on that, so Microsoft also provides a lot of best practices around how the platform should be set up. So those articles can also be referred for the uh, those articles can also be referred for this purpose.
And I know that maybe you mentioned that, but in order for organization to use the Azure AD Privileged Identity Management or PIM functionality, what licenses should be in place, and
Yeah,
what type of, let's say, license investment companies needs to do in order to get use of that feature? Can you talk about that as well?
definitely. Yeah, that's a really good one. For Azure PIM to be organization can use, they have to use P2 license. So on the AD, they have multiple licenses present, so they have to use P2 license to have this capability enabled.
Okay, great. And that P2 license is required in order for just the administrator in order to make those PIM
Yes.
related things, or is it also required for the users who are, let's say, going to get that review and they have to kind of respond on that?
Yeah, yeah, no, this is required only uh, uh, for the as an on the AD level only. It is required so that the PIM can be configured. That's it. But
Okay,
all other part that I'm showed, it can be done without this part. So even
without
the
P2.
logs and monitoring, it is separately a separate service altogether. So it
Hmm.
it does not require a specific license other than the Azure subscription around it.
Yes. Yeah, I just can tell you that the licensing is always very confusing,
Yeah.
especially with products, because there's so much different use case scenarios, and those licenses are not just created for one product, right? They are
Yeah.
covering a family of products, so that's why it's always a bit, I would say, not challenging, but a bit tedious to
Yeah.
answer those type of questions and be, on the right track. But I would suggest if you really want to know more about that, check the licenses, Microsoft licenses page, just to be sure,
Yeah.
and so that the scenarios that you are trying to cover, they are you have enough licenses and to do those operations.
Yeah.
And we have a question from John, actually. Thank you, John, for question. I'm bringing that into the studio. So
Hmm.
the question is, does PIM have CLI or command line interface or some type of bicep or ARM API support for deployments?
Yes, really good question, John. So answer to that one is, in short, yes, there is modules available by which you can configure the CLI. But last I checked, I think it was few weeks ago, it was at least for the Azure resources. Like I mentioned, I showed here when configuring the PIM, there are Azure AD and Azure resources. For Azure AD, you can create you have the modules available in GA, but for Azure resources, it is still in preview. So you have to use the public preview mode to carry out this activity. It is a little bit tricky when you carry out this activity because some APIs that I experienced fail when you try to configure the settings or gives incorrect message. Though I have created a small tool around it. Maybe if you're interested and if you think of implementing this further in CLI, feel free to reach out to me. I can share. It's on my GitHub, so I can share that link with you, repo link. So I've already created some module. You can use just that module to create these set of roles on a resource. I hope that answers it.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Sankit, for that. And if you want, you can also, Sankit, you can drop that in the later on YouTube chat, so that
Sure,
the users who are watching this session later on, they can go and visit that GitHub yours, and you
definitely.
know that would be good, I believe. And thank you, John, for joining. And it's all good. So again, we are going back to the studio here, and Sankit, thank you for this very interesting presentation today. You covered a very interesting topic, and the governance and control of those enterprise data platform resources, so to speak. And it was, and as well as John, Sanjay, and I believe everybody who was watching this online, and maybe later who are going to watch it, the recording, they would be really happy with what they will receive. That said, if so, Sankit, if people want to follow you back and get in touch with you or find what you are doing, where you would recommend them to go and visit, how they can get connected with you?
I will just share it in the chat. So uh, this is I will prefer either people can reach out to me on LinkedIn or on Twitter. So this is my handle. I've shared. Uh, yeah, I've shared in the chat. Maybe this can be shared with everyone.
All right, that's great. So, yes, I know that you put that in the chat, and I will put L of ET, right? That's yours. Let me
Yes.
put that in the chat so everybody can see that. Here we go. And in addition to that, Sankit mentioned a URL for the learning more about privileged identity management and PIM configuration. So I'm also going to paste that URL here in the chat so everybody can see that and access it. All right. Thank you, everyone, again for this joining us today. We shared as much as we can on the chat so that you can use those resources. And if you have any questions, you already have the Twitter handle of Zankit, so you can reach back. And I hope to see you all again back next week on another Cloud Launch and Learn session. It's going to be about Azure Logic Apps and Defender for Endpoint with another guest speaker on DevOps kind of area. So please join and enjoy that. And Sankit, thank you for very interesting again presentation today and demos, and trying to answer and cover all the questions that come along with that.
Thank you so much, Alana. Thank you for having me, and really excited to have a very engaging audience. So it was my pleasure. Thank you
Great,
so much.
great. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye, everyone. See you on our next session. Thank you, Sankit.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.